First, asking how instead of what or even why. We all know that we live in a world full of information, and in fact, the data volume seems endless. It's kinda a big problem for a researcher, but even bigger for a person who just wants to understand himself a little bit better. That was me, and I kinda sank. In order not to choke, I trained a lot to use different tools inside this systems analysis. And it saved my sanity for quite a long time. Let me give you the definition of a word system I'm using here. A system is a complex of elements having their hierarchy, interacting with each other and with the external world, and having and trying to achieve a special for them goal. Quite easy, isn't it? One of the examples can be the government. However, this definition is quite strict, and actually I know only one true example of it, but I'm not telling you right now, a little bit later. And actually, not everything in this world can be determined as a system. For instance, terrorism or terrorist organizations. You can eliminate the head of such a group, but the whole group will be still functioning, while eliminating a head of a system means the end of it. So that's why I remembered about a net. To be easy, a net is a system, but without hierarchy, where a goal or an idea plays a really big role uniting the elements. So these two instruments, a system and a net, helped me a lot and became my centaur forms in the ocean of data in answering the question how. However, that was not enough. The second one, making myself an object to study or creating I-centric base for the model. Forming beautiful and complex system was fun and fascinating, especially when we are talking about international affairs. However, the more I did it, the more frustrating I felt. It was never enough. And there were so-called emotions. I didn't know what to do with it. They were like burden. But in fact, there was a disconnect between me and the world. Or even more, I was the blank spot for myself. So I started eating psychology-related information. And that's how I get my third instrument. I call it gestalt-making. I bumped into Fritz Perls and started to experiment with myself on awareness. It was like learning from the beginning. For example, how to eat. How does it taste? And what about the structure and the process? Or how does my body, the part that is connected with this process, react? It was interesting. Or about walking. How do I step? Is it gentle? Or is it hitting my head and I'm moving like a streaking grasshopper? And while working with my body, I started to make a logical sequence connected with my emotions and trying to understand what they're showing me about myself. However, that was still not enough. And that's how I entered my therapy and learned my fourth instrument, acceptance. It turned out that I can really feel anything. Anger, tears, frustration, dissatisfaction, love, sorrow. And it's enough. I can be anything and I can be different. And it's enough because I'm already enough. And the things I'm doing are enough. And that gave me so much strength to do so many crazy things I wanted to do just because I liked it or felt like I needed it. So I gathered lots of information about myself and I wondered, how can I combine this in one simple structure, yet elastic enough to fit everything in me and in this world? And also, that time I wanted to go even deeper down myself for two reasons. The first one, once during a session with my therapist, we had a so-called encounter. And actually, I mentioned it in the video about myself, so let me just copy paste it, okay? There is one phenomenon in psychology that's called encounter. And that day, we have that. Let me not just explain what is it, but try to show you and maybe make you feel this condition. It's really interesting one. So first, okay, I will talk about myself. So first I felt it like a little tension, like I was a wild animal that was not that scared but was tense because it heard something strange, something unfamiliar in the forest. And then I felt naked, without anything, like there was no clothes at all. And it was a little bit embarrassing, like I wanted to just close myself, and I even started laughed out of nervous, but that time my therapist explained that everything all right, it's just maybe the encounter. And I felt a little bit relieved, and after that I felt like united, the one. I still was naked, but it was not uncomfortable. It was harmonic, I would say. And I felt like my hands started burning like hair. and my therapist said that her chest started burning. And then I looked at her and I saw that she was just another person. I was me and she was her. And we were the different persons, but we were like, I was united in myself and she was united in herself, but we were still seeing each other. And the time was frozen itself, but still it was everything in the time. It's something incredible, really. That time, after the session, I actually thought maybe it was not just a phenomenon in psychology, maybe just something deeper, and maybe it's about souls and their encounter. I made the first ansatz. The soul is real and can be studied. The second reason was that back then I was really interested in Carl Jung archetypes and the collective unconscious. But I've already thought of it as something bigger, something full with information. I'm talking about the inner space right now. By the way, in Russian, I call it the dimension of the information. But it's not so romantic. Somehow, the soul was connected with both the physical world, I mean the Matterspace, and the inner space. So I trapped it just in between them. And that's what was the second ansatz about. And there's one more detail to add about me, because I became an object and the subject of my own studies. So the first one, I'm a highly sensitive person. This biological superpower of my brain helps me to process information really deeply and to feel my emotions really strong and be aware of your emotions, even though I don't want to touch, smell, feel, hear lots of different details and not go crazy, just overstimulated, but not as a regular highly sensitive person, because I have the second superpower due to my tragic life and lots of works and trainings with the system and gestalt-making. So I can eat a really big amount of information and not die, practically. I have my limits. The second thing about me, I can work with my dreams materials as much as I want. I was really interested in my dreams, so I was curious, what can I actually do in them? The full control was none of my concern. That was not fun. It is not fun. You can agree with me or not. I started training, and so 10 years passed, and now every day I see from 1 to 4 dreams where I can touch, smell, think, dream in a dream, remember from a life or from a dream, override some scenarios, see if I don't like them, or even read and write, both texting and handwriting, though the last two things are concerned to be impossible. It is possible, but it is really, really hard to do. So I use my dreams in order to speak with myself and analyze. However, I had the third edition. I can use trance, or you can say a self-hypnosis, in order to speak with myself. No, I'm not using, the golden watch in order to do this. It's something like the Milton Erickson hypnosis, as far as I read about it. And what I do, I recall my memories with the help of it, and I dissociate myself. In other words, I disintegrate myself into different parts in order to see where my inner conflict exists and which part is in this conflict. And yes, I'm sane, and actually you can do it too. To conclude, I use the system and net analysis in order to answer how question. Also, I prefer gestalt-making and acceptance of anything I can think of in order to test and taste it, and only then decide whether it's okay or not okay with myself. Because my model is I-centric, which means a human is in the center of the studies, and I made myself an object of studying. However, I'm looking for a flexible structure that can fit the things that are not okay with me, because I'm myself a limited creature. And I made two ansatz. The first one, the soul is real, and it can be studied, and it is connected with both the Matterspace and the Innerspace.